Another problem can be with documentation, quarantine documentation, where you have maybe a wooden product or wooden packaging, and you haven't got the right fumigation certificate. And then you've got to get that processed, a bit like I mentioned before. Or it might be a certificate of origin. So you might have I can remember a time where we brought in some T-shirts from Bangladesh. Now, Bangladesh is a third world country.
Yes, and it's just near India, right?
That's right. And as a third world country, back in 2002, they brought in regulation in Australia that any what we call a least developed country under the United Nations classification would come into Australia duty-free, no matter what it was.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So we brought in these T-shirts, which at that stage were probably about 22.5%, somewhere in that area.
Of a tariff. Yeah. Which means if you brought in $100 worth of clothing, you'd have to give 22.5 cents to the government before you even sold it.
And that's the cost of sales.
Sunk cost.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay.
So we didn't have the right certificate.
Oh.
Right. So we then had to sort of send off and get it. Now, there was two things we could have done. One was to clear it and get a refund later, which was a possibility. The other was to hold on and hopefully get it within a few days. Well, that's what we chose. Well, the client chose to do.
Yeah, they wanted the money up front. Yeah.
Because of cash flow, understandably, so they sent off. But unfortunately, the red tape system, because they had to go to a government department in Bangladesh, get a bit of paper stamped up, sent back to Australia, didn't happen that fast. So the delays just created some real problems with storage charges.
Yeah, which is the next question, actually.
Okay.
What is demurrage?
Demurrage can be also called storage, as I just said, or detention. And it basically is when you bring goods into a country, then if it's in a container in particular, you've given a certain number of days that you're allowed as free time before you pick them up.
It's about 3 or 4 days? Or?
Something like that. And it will depend country to country and maybe port to port. And also shipping line to shipping line and airline to airline. It may depend. So what often happens is if you don't get them picked up in time, they then start a daily rate of charging you for that. So what happens is that, and it generally goes for maybe 3 or 4 days or 10 days at a certain rate. Then the next, it jumps up and it jumps up. So it ends up escalating the longer you leave it.
And it would be way higher than an outsourced storage and logistics facility.
Oh, definitely, yeah. You'd be better off to try and take it off and put it somewhere else, even though it was costing you, because it's going to be costing less than this. And the reason is they want to clear the deck, so to speak, for the next ship that's coming in or the next plane that's coming in.
They're not a storage company.
They don't want that there, so that's a penalty to encourage you very dramatically to get your goods out.
And that can often erode your total profit.
Oh, definitely.
You could end up working for free for the government, essentially donating all your money for storage.
Exactly.
You bring in goods if you don't know what you're doing.
Well, I've had some bills for clients, $20,000 or $30,000.
Wow.
Storage costs, just containers, because of the problems of paperwork or whatever it might have been.
And they could, if they spend $1,000 or $2,000 on a customs, getting a customs broker through a shipping logistics company, they would have saved themselves not only the headache, but a boatload of money.
Not only that, but getting good advice from the broker or the freight forwarder. And because actually, if they'd known in advance they needed certain documents or a process had to be gone through, they could have actually done that in the process. But if they're not aware of that process, and that's why whoever you deal with, whether it's customs or quarantine themselves, whether it's freight forwarders, customs brokers, shipping line airlines, you should be asking lots of questions. What are the things I need to do?
Gotcha.
What do I need to know in my negotiations before I even start buying? What are the processes that I'll need to go through to get those goods from overseas here or to send them overseas to other people?